Got about 8:58. This Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. Call the Blanco County Commissioners Court to order. Ask Ms. Wall to call the roll.
Judge Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Weir.
Here.
Commissioner Eager.
Here.
Commissioner Leisman.
Here.
Commissioner Graham.
Here. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today, for public comment, we have Mr. Ken Welch.
I'm Ken Welch of Blanco County. Last week I attended the software presentation by CoFile and was very impressed by the product and the potential to help the county administrators and the citizens of Blanco County. This software may minimize the lack of transparency that this county government makes a common practice. Reviewing the proposals, it appears that between $18,000 and $24,000 would be needed just to install and make the system operational. In addition, the first 4 annual payments to gather and load the data under this existing contract will be in excess of $58,000. I reviewed the current budget, trying to identify where these funds were planned. Unfortunately, this expense was not itemized, and you don't share ongoing expenditures with the public. Again, lack of transparency. There are several areas where I believe the funds could be made available. The election administrator's budget. I understand Oscar Villarreal resigned after just 7 months. That was unfortunate, as he was recognized as an outstanding elections administrator and a very fine person. His unused salary could yield approximately $35,000. I doubt your effort to fill the vacancy with a qualified applicant at the salary you've advertised. The treasurer's budget and auditor's budget each show $7,500 allocated for software conversions. The community services expenditure shows $11,180 for the new CRC center. As we pointed out in the past, CRC is a nonprofit organization paying no taxes, and they claim they assist communities without costing taxpayers or community members a thing. These funds should be used for CoFile project, which will help the citizens who are paying taxes. The non-departmental budget shows 2 potential items: a $13,000 increase for internet services and a new $10,000 item for lawn service. The $13,000 clearly fit the description. I assume the lawn service funds are for the new contract for linesman mowing that has not been previously budgeted. These funding sources total $84,000. It looks like this project is financially feasible and it could help make this county more transparent when interacting with Blanco County citizens concerning public information. It would be helpful if the county residents knew the priorities of this Commissioner's Court. In your last meeting, you refused the sheriff's request for adequate funds for a maintenance position at the Blanco County Jail. I recommend that you arrange that funding to ensure quality maintenance of our new jail before you fund new projects. You also have a large unmet need to provide safe roads and bridges. I've seen no planning for these needs. And I have a copy for your records if you've got any questions.
Item 4 is considering the proposed minutes Mr. Waller has submitted to you.
Make a motion we dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the estimated January payroll.
I make a motion to approve the estimated January 2020 payroll in the amount of $312,528.89.
Second.
Commissioner Granberg seconds. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All of the official reports are in and available for inspection and subject to your approval. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the official reports.
Is there a second?
And I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we come to item 7, which is the outstanding bills.
Line item transfers.
I'm sorry?
Line item transfers, number 7.
You're right. And there are none. So, we can pass item 7 and move to item 8, which is the outstanding bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the outstanding bills in the amount of $250,307.24.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Granberg, seconds. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Today we have Mr. Robert Dalston, and I believe Mr. Frank Black accompanying him to discuss Hill Country 100 Club.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank y'all for your continued support of the Hill Country 100 Club. Several years ago, y'all started doing a first responder appreciation during July, and that has spread to the other counties on something that y'all have started to do. Also, I want to thank Sheriff Jackson for all of his continued support. He's had several people come to him and say, what can we do to help, and he is doing well. Today, I want to make you aware of our banquet, which is what we do once a year, where we honor our first responders. And our banquet is on March the 5th, which is the first Thursday in March, and it's in Burnett at the YMCA, where we've been the last couple of years. If you're interested in the ticket, you can talk to either myself or Frank Black, who is also a director, or you can go on our Facebook site and just say you need tickets, and we'll be back in touch with you. We also have a website that will eventually be set up for tickets. It's just not set up for that yet. Bob Cole in Austin, he's a disc jockey and owns one of the Austin radio stations. He's going to be our guest speaker this year. Real briefly, I want to give everybody a history of our club. Basically, in 2001, several businessmen in Burnett County got together, and they started the club, and they felt there was a need. The 100 clubs have been around since the 50s in Texas. Yeah, the Houston Club was started in 1950, and it was only for law enforcement. And they have since expanded to fire and EMS. Our organization does law enforcement, fire, EMS, and then this year the Texas legislature has added dispatchers to the role of first responders. We also cover dispatchers. In 2001, when this club was started, it was started with these 6 businessmen in Burnett County. We have since expanded to Blanco County, to Lampasas County, and Delano County. We cover all 4 of those counties. Our overhead is kept to a minimum, as we have 100% volunteers doing everything. Our overhead is nothing but postage, brochures, and mail out. So it's 2 to 4% of our yearly budget is all we spend on overhead with that. We currently have 14 directors from throughout the 4-county area that basically are local business people or retired business people from this area, which are all very interested and concerned to try to help the first responders. This past December, at our December meeting, we raised our payout to the families. What we do is we pay to families of first responders that die in the line of duty. We raised our payout from $20,000 to $25,000. 2 weeks later, we had to write a $25,000 check to the Burnett police officer who died while he was training his canine dog of a heart attack. We'd gladly make the payouts to help the family, because that is the whole purpose of our organization, is helping those, but at the same time, we hope and pray we never have to make another payout. Reality is, things will happen. We will have to, but we hope it never happens. But if it does happen, we want to be there to help the families. We also will help families of officers that are seriously injured, officers or firemen or EMS or dispatchers if they're seriously injured in the line of duty. We'll help them, families get through tough times, especially if they're without money. When we make the payout, we try and do it within 2 days of the death to try to give the family some immediate funds to get through their tough circumstances. When these situations happen, they usually get state and federal funds, but it can take up to 3 to 6 years to get the federal funds, I know for a fact, and it can take 6 to 8 months before any state funds come in. So these families are in need of some help, and that's one reason we're trying to do is to help them. I know several of y'all are members of the 100 Club, and I want to thank each of you for your help and support. And those that are not members, membership in our golf tournament is really our 2 fundraisers. So we try to gather membership, and then in September we have a golf tournament, which you'll all be invited to if you're golfers. I don't play golf. Frank and I, we sit on the holes and watch for the hole-in-ones. That's what we do at the golf tournament because neither one of us play golf. But anyhow, we do that in September. But for your continued support, I want to mention one more time about what y'all started, and that is making July in support of the first responders. It has spread to the other 3 counties. That's very good innovation on y'all's part, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate y'all's support. Thank you very much.
Briefly, is it 14 board members and you, or is the chairman one of the 14 board
No,
members?
I'm one of the 14.
And,
So there's 14 total.
and if you don't mind my asking, how does that actually happen? Do you walk up and knock on the door and hand them a check? Do you go to the bank?
We usually, we'll call, like if it was a Blanco County, we would call the sheriff. We have to verify the beneficiary, who the first responder has listed as beneficiary. Once that's verified, then usually 2 or 3 of us will get a check and work with whoever the chief or sheriff or whoever's in charge and meet the family somewhere. Example, what we did in Burnett a month ago, we called Chief Nelson, who's the chief of police in Burnett Police, and he told us that the family was at the church making plans for the funeral, so we just went to the church, met her there, gave her the check, explained to her, you know, life's a blur in her mind, or whoever the spouse is at that time. We explained to them this check is to use whatever you need for. And we'll tell them, if you're still in need, if there's something after that, come back to us. And if we can help you, we can.
Just for clarification, you don't just sit on a board, you actually do the hard work.
Actually, everybody does the hard work. With just 14 board of directors, we're all busy doing different things. My role, I'm the chair this year. Next year, Frank's chair. So we just share that.
What I meant by that, I know fundraising and all of that's always work. I'm talking about, to me, that looks like it'd be one of the hardest things in the world to do, is to have to go visit with a widow or widower
Right.
of somebody just killed in the line of duty. And you do that.
It's just like, yes. Anything else? Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate what y'all do. Y'all put in a lot of effort to help your community as a whole. I appreciate what y'all do. And if we can ever help with anything, let us know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a concern or objection if we were to move up item 20, the Cap Cod briefing? It's very important in my mind. It's been a long process that's going on and will continue for a while. I want to make sure all 4 commissioners are here for it, and really it'd be good for it to be up front even for the public part. All right, Ms. Boyd.
Judge Commissioners, I'm Betty Boyd with Cap Cod, and I have Rachel Steele with me, who's the Director of our Community and Economic Development, and Bruce Byron, who we work closely with through TxDOT. We started this process back in August, and we're getting to the point where we'll be wrapping it up soon. We thought it was really important to come and talk to you all a little bit about what we're doing. We've had several meetings and met a lot of folks and got a lot of good input. There's always room for more input, so we're open to that. This is the second transportation and economic development plan that we've worked on. You all may remember that we had one before some of you. I think maybe Commissioner Granberg, you were the only one that was here.
I was there.
Were you here then? I didn't remember you that long ago.
Old.
Okay, well, great. So anyway, time flies. So 2014, yeah, that was only 5 years ago. We finished a plan, and we're really lucky. We did Lee County and Llano County. We're really lucky that TxDOT lets us do this. CapCog wanted to do transportation plans for all the counties to give you all more authority on growth. That's why we started doing them. But we also felt like integrating economic development as a component of that was important, because sometimes transportation can drive economic development, but sometimes economic development drives transportation. So, and we know that that's happening more now than it was in 2014. So we really want to make sure that we do a good job with this, that we get strategies in there that the Commissioners Court really likes and can, hopefully help implement. And of course, we will continue to provide support even when the plan's adopted. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel so she can give you a quick briefing on what we've done up to now.
Do you have additional copies if anyone's interested in the presentation?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Rachel Steele with CapCog, and I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the agency. And what we'd like to do today is kind of bring you a snapshot of what we've been working on over the last 8 months, just to kind of give you a perspective of where we're headed and what some of the deliverables are looking like. So our transportation and economic development plans are usually done in kind of a 4-phase process. And right now, as you can see, we're in phase number 3. We're developing recommendations after a long series of analysis and meeting with stakeholders and elected officials. The elected officials that have participated have been county judge, both mayors as well, so we've had a lot of local input, as well as a stakeholder steering committee, which has been comprised of local business owners. And as you can see, phase 4 will kind of commence with just a final public meeting, which is slated for February 18th. And then a presentation back here in March, back to you all with the final plan. So what we'd like to do now is just kind of give a few summaries on demographic information. The first is the population growth forecast, and I have some interesting information on this. It's been kind of an issue of concern as we look at Blanco County, because once you get out of the MSA, growth rates in rural communities differ. The data set that we use is typically from the Texas Demographic Center, and they use a 3-level cohort component technique, which is only comprised of births, deaths, and natural migration based on historic projection, based on historic numbers. It does not account for local drivers that may include business expansion, housing accessibility, and things like that. So what you're seeing here is kind of what's been achieved through 2010 and 2015. But as we look to 2020 and out to 2050, this is a conservative estimate based just on these 3 cohorts, not any other external variables that you all may be bringing in. So it's very conservative, but it's showing, interestingly enough, of the 254 counties in Texas, Blanco County is still growing, and that's significant. There are 99 counties that are stagnant and declining in population, so these stats are still very important and useful to the community. We get asked a lot of times, what's the makeup of the population in Blanco? And now here, it's really interesting. We're on page 2 or page 4, and we've got some cohorts here. The first 3 to your left, the orange, kind of teal and purple, those are individuals under age 40, and those are typically our households that are moving to the area, that have kids, that are likely to be of school age, work locally, and things like that. The other two cohorts are 45 to 64 and 65 and above. And as you can tell from 2025 kind of outward, these two last cohorts grow exponentially, due in part to two things. Retirement is people are working longer and wanting to live remotely and kind of telecommute in, and those things are facilitated easier. It's also easier to, with technology, to kind of age in place. So you've got much more modern conveniences and affordable technologies that make living independently longer much more viable. So those are things to kind of keep in mind. And as you can see, when we really get out to 2025 and 2035, the 65 plus cohort really comes online in a much more dramatic way. One of the questions we're also asked is, where are all these folks coming from? And again, outside the MSA, the growth patterns are different. What we've found here is that most of the growth is coming from adjacent counties. And what we used here was the address labels that come back on income tax returns. They're post-dated 2 years previous, so this data is from 2016, but the table here on the right shows you've got inbound migration from these top 5 counties: Comal, Bear, Hayes, Burnett, and Travis County. So your neighbors are really enjoying the things that you're saying about your community, and they're wanting to move in. Conversely, not too many people are moving out, and if they are moving out, they're moving out to these counties kind of in flux, but you can see that's usually under 100 people per year that are kind of moving out. One of the biggest issues that folks face when they move to Blanco County is finding a place to live. And what we tried to do with this slide here is show that you've got a very stable housing market, with 78% of the units owned being owner-occupied, with only 22% being owner-occupied, which also means that there's a housing shortage and scarcity. If someone's brand new to the community, it may be very difficult to find quick housing. Conversely, over here we've got the summary of units that are typically available to someone looking for housing, and largely that's your residential, one-story, one-unit kind of facility. Mobile homes, RV units, things like that. There are some, but they aren't predominant. Talking more about housing inventory, if you look at the county's available rent market, 80% of those properties are going to have rents over $1,000 a month. In addition, that can be significant when wages are closer to minimum wage and people are able to make that much money to facilitate that sort of rent. In addition, we also wanted to make you aware that most of the housing stock in the county was built prior to 1990. You've got a lot of new construction coming online, but there's still, when people are looking to buy in Blanco, the predominant choice is going to be a resale home, not necessarily new construction. The other thing that we thought was really interesting, and we wanted to give this to you in straight numbers as well as a percent, is the housing characteristics by owner versus renter occupied. And we've got the left as raw numbers and the right as just percentages, and how the rental market really doesn't really fluctuate much past 25% across the last 8 to 10 years. Which leads kind of into a conversation about the value of housing units. 58% of the homes in Blanco County are under $300,000. You'd think that would be great news, but unfortunately, that parallels exactly the Austin MSA. So there's really, when you're looking at value for home and value for opportunity, they're kind of similar for both regions. The median income, or the median household value for Blanco County is $230,000. Now this is interesting because when we go to the next slide, we kind of show you the top 5 occupations for the county. And they're in a pretty diverse group of listings. You've got construction, office administration, food prep, sales, and management occupations. And of those 5, two really are still sectors that rely on minimum wage jobs, but the other three are pretty diverse. They're growing rapidly, and it shows upward mobility in the economy. But what's interesting is if you look at the chart below, for Blanco County, as of 2018, the median income for a household is $63,000, which is $10,000 less than the MSA. Which is also interesting if you ever chat with a realtor who says, you know, you usually try and qualify people for homes 3 times their income. And based on the $63,000, you've got people that are still not qualifying to buy homes that may be an average price of $230,000. Significant data point. Which brings us kind of to our last slide here on housing and wages. We've got a chart showing kind of the disparity between median home value and household income. Right now it's at about 12% difference, but as things continue to develop and grow, we're going to be very careful to watch where that percentage fluctuates to. If it gets much larger, you're still going to have a huge issue when it comes to not only housing affordability, but housing accessibility, and whether or not people in the community are going to be able to move up to a different home, and that those new to the community are going to be able to find basic housing. So after all of those kind of issues about housing, we realized that there were things going on in the community, and we facilitated a community survey to kind of get a more comprehensive view of what the issues are that are concerns to people. We had 181 responses, and you can see from the chart here, there were very diversified comments, everything from the education system to the cost of living. So we tried to capture that here. The availability of quality jobs, the retention of young skilled workers, cost of living, and the affordability of housing, those were definitely right at the top of the list as far as considerations, and are still economic drivers that weigh on the community. We also wanted to mention, before we got too far down the way, that there are still growing businesses in the county. Predominantly, they are smaller business, but they're very and highly productive. When you look here, you've got small firms, 4 and under, that total at least 191. This is data sets from 2016, so we're a little dated, so we can assume that that's a little bit closer to 200. We've got mid-sized firms that still constitute over 100 firms, and then larger firms, which are going to be PEC, education, and government, still making the mark and still making an impact. So getting back to the survey, one of the issues that the community brought up and that we've received multiple comments on were concerns and improvements to the roadway. The top 3 community surveys responses when it related to roadways was the maintenance of the roads, the availability of shoulders, and the availability of sidewalks. And we really tried to take text on information and data that they had, raw data, to kind of paint a picture of what the existing conditions are so that our transportation planners at TxDOT, as well as our local officials, can work to develop plans and concepts that address these concerns. On this back page, we've got a summary of roadway travel across the county. This is where my community stats come in handy. The first slide here is the annual average daily traffic counts for the county in general. As you can see, the hot spots are definitely Johnson City, City of Blanco, and High. High's definitely come on in the last 5 years in a significant way. You know, if we're talking details, I've got, let's see, we'll go with Johnson City, 281, south of Johnson City. The average daily counts for 13,832. That's a change in almost 3,700 vehicles a day over the last 3 years. If we're looking at City of Blanco, at 281 south of Blanco, that area is averaging roughly 12,326 vehicles a day, and that's a change again of almost 3,000 cars. So baseline kind of gamut here is at least 3,000 more people are coming in and through the county than were 3 to 5 years ago. That's significant, which also kind of correlates to why we partner with TxDOT when we do these transportation studies, so that they can look to see what remedies can be considered to allow for extra capacity. We also wanted to talk about crashes and accidents within the county because that was also a big concern that came up in the survey. When you look at the city of Blanco, we've got US 281, and I know that this is kind of difficult to see because crashes occur at different intervals along 281. But for the most part, south of Blanco, we're averaging over a 4-year period 80 crashes, which is highly significant. And there are things that are in the works to kind of look at how to improve safety for that area. That include diminishing of speed limits and expansion of roadways. In some cases, from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, in some cases undivided to divided lanes. So those are things that TxDOT is responding to and kind of proposing. For Johnson City, as far as crashes go, the primary area is 281 just south of Johnson City. That's averaging 90 crashes over a 4-year period. And again, we're looking at the same sort of remedies, expanding shoulders, reconfiguring lanes to hopefully improve safety. Unfortunately, because of the classification of the general road itself, the speed limit can't be altered all that much. So we're kind of having to operate within some confines of just the natural environment, the highway roadway, which can't be changed as much. Let's see, system updates. These are things that are actually exciting. These are things that TxDOT has planned, they've approved as part of their 10-year transportation plan. The first one will be SH 71, which is kind of up in the northern corner of the county. They'll be constructing continuous left turn lanes with shoulders. So, the other 2 projects will be US 281 in 2 segments, and it'll be south of Blanco all the way to the county line. They'll be taking 2 lanes undivided, making them 4 lanes into a divided roadway. As well as, especially within the incorporated of the city area of the city of Blanco, they will be modifying the speed limit in some of those areas as well in the upcoming months. So I know we've kind of talked a little bit about growth, a little bit about transportation, but now kind of getting to the end here and talking about economic development recommendations. As I mentioned, we're still in the plan formulation. We're still receiving comments. Our community survey is still even open. We've received 181 comments to date, but we still have capacity, so we're still sending links out to it. We'll encourage anyone that's interested to participate. Some of the recommendations that we're looking to move forward with are small business resources, broadband expansion, tourism promotion, infrastructure expansion. For the transportation side, one of the things that came up through the TxDOT meetings and TxDOT's participation is really focusing on a local request that's generated through the cities and the counties and a formal request to TxDOT to start an analysis of the 281 bypass. And through these formal protocols, TxDOT is able to set up a response that can adequately start planning for these things. And those were things that we all learned through this process, so I thought that was helpful. Some other good news is that we've got word that there will be increased transit service from carts. There will be more repaving and maintenance of the roadways, extensions of shoulders, considerations of traffic lights at key intersections, and a lot of other things that we didn't delve into much detail here. We'll be going into at the public meeting Tuesday, February 18th. We'll have large, enormous size kind of life printouts of the county roadway systems, the critical intersections, so that we can talk through what's going on, the geometrics, the crash data. So we really encourage you to come. It's February 18th from 4 to 6 p.m. here at the Annex Building. And again, the final presentation will be March 10th, and we'll return the document to you for your use and utility. I'm happy to answer any questions that we might have.
Will that include a timeline? In this meeting, we all have a 5-year plan or a timeline of some sort to implement these different?
Yes, we'll have recommendations with proposed timelines on how to get those things done, especially when it comes to coordinating with TxDOT. We'll get that kind of their instruction manual for those things so that the community is well informed.
Okay.
Were you expecting the Commissioners Court to adopt the final plan March the 10th?
In the past, We have kind of come in under those auspices, so yes, something similar to that again.
Well, let's back into that a little bit. So the public meeting, February the 18th, that's tentative at the moment, isn't it? Or is it set in stone?
Set in stone now.
Okay.
Yes.
And that meeting is going to be, when it says public meeting, it's like a big, as it's been described to me, a big rollout with stations
Sure.
for
Yes.
people to see various aspects of the economic development or transportation plan, right? And try to learn more and get their questions answered.
Yes.
But that only leaves about 20 days from then to the Commissioners Court meeting for adoption. And I don't know about the commissioners so much, but for me, I find it better when comments are put in writing,
Okay.
because it's easier to focus on whatever it is that's being. Well, let me ask you this: at the public meeting, will there be a literal draft of a plan?
There will be excerpts of the plan, all the recommendations. We can bring copies of the draft, but we wanted to break it apart into tangible pieces so that people could really get the details and that nothing would be overlooked. So we're gonna have an economic side of the room, and all of that will be laid out, and the transportation side will be on the other half, so that you really get an interactive look at what the components are going to be.
Okay. I'm just not sure that the timeline is going to. Your part's fine.
Sure.
I'm not sure that the part for the Commissioners Court is going to
Okay.
be enough time. I'm just not sure.
Okay.
Or how to invite folks to make sure that we get, because I've heard from various people that are interested, and you know, it's always one of those things. And I've been at your meetings, and Mayor Hurden and Mayor Stell,
Yes.
and I worked hard to try to get a good sampling around the county of interested folks. It was interesting to me how they dropped off.
You know, one thing that you all might want to consider, and I mean, I'm leaning over to Bruce asking, you know, when TxDOT really wants us to finish this, but if it would be easier once we do the public meeting, we get a lot of comments, come back and maybe do a work session with you all, figure out what portions you want to integrate, what you want to change, and then the final would be a subsequent meeting where you adopt it.
How does that sound?
I like that better.
Okay.
Got a couple more small things. Did you have an impression? I'll give you my impression first. That part where there were the comments
On the survey?
on the survey. It interested me in how many literally opposite views.
Very much.
There was, and I can't give you an example, but like the road's too big, the road's too small, or something like that.
We literally, for a while, it was almost comment for comment, and we want to be as reflective as possible. And that's another reason why we still have the comment period open, was because when we see almost comment for comment kind of balancing each other out, we figure there's still concerns in the community that we haven't heard. So again, the survey is still open. You know, we're trying to neutrally convey and collect as many comments as possible and kind of put them in a place where we can say, okay, a trend is happening here or not there. But it is very apparent from the community that there's a struggle about growth, wanting it to be a safe place, but not having it grow too large. And I think that puts you all in a firm position to be responsive to that.
And did you say the survey is still open?
It is.
And so if that were put in the newspaper, people could access the website?
Yes.
I think we have it on our website, on the county website, the link, I think.
Yes.
What is that website? Do you remember to get to the survey?
It's a Survey Monkey with a long alphanumeric something, which
that you don't have memorized.
I don't, but I do have stats of the county memorized.
Commissioners, other thoughts? So my impression during the meetings was that it always kept coming, it seems to me almost always kept coming back to traffic and safety as the big issue.
It really did.
And then workforce housing
Mm-hmm.
seemed to be the second biggest on the list. And they all kind of float around other things involving economic development and transportation.
An interesting caveat to that, the Dallas Fed releases regional economic notes quarterly. And they have also noticed for the Austin region in particular, economic growth slipped 1% in this past quarter. And it's attributed not to business contraction, but actually the scarcity of workers. So what you're experiencing here is actually also on a regional level, and it's starting to show slight impacts for economic growth, not population growth. And those things can certainly balance out and be cyclical with seasonal adjustments, but it is a larger issue that will have to be planned for on multiple fronts.
And I'm trying to provoke maybe here a little bit, but it's CapCog's and TxDOT's intention for the Blanco County Commissioners Court to adopt an overall transportation plan, the economic development plan. And in the conversations I've had with Ms. Voights recently, really the bigger issue, or a big issue of that is follow through, is making sure that we actually keep up with it.
Yes.
Which is not easy for a little county like Blanco County, right?
That's correct.
But what I really wanted to get to is this presentation today is more about alerting, alarming, or at least informing the commissioners.
Correct.
And make sure that we're all going down the road at the same rate and that they're comfortable with your timetable.
Correct. We wanted in a very small time period to be able to come back to the commissioners, especially before the public meeting, and make them aware of the demographic information that we've been able to determine through the Demographic Center, U.S. Census, and transportation counts through TxDOT, so that if you choose to attend the public meeting, you've got more information at your disposal as you walk in and can work and interact with your constituents more comfortably.
We're going to have one workshop in between, is that correct?
So it sounds
That's
like
what you call it, or?
the next thing, so we'll have the TxDOT public meeting, which will be February 18th, and what we'll do there as well is create comment stations, so that even though we've worked through recommendations through the stakeholder group, the public may have different or more detailed comments. And so we'll compile all that again. It sounds like maybe a little bit longer period. We'll bring it all back to you all and just, you guys tell us what's going to work, what's not going to work. We'll refine that and then present.
Now also, if you all can think of things that you especially want us to communicate at the public meeting on certain issues, we can do that. Judge Bray, one of the ones that was conflicting in the surveys, which sticks in my mind, is it wasn't just about growth and no growth, but some people realize that the tourism is bringing a lot of benefits to the economy, and then there were comments about people who felt like the businesses pay too much attention to people who aren't local. And so, we want to help work through kind of a broader understanding of why all that's happening, and why, as a small county, some of the comments were, get big companies to come in here and hire people. Well, if you can't find enough workers for a small business, you're not going to find enough workers for an employer that's going to come in and need 30 people or 50 people. So, that's a longer term issue, but, I think that our opportunity at the public meeting is to explain a lot of this in a more comprehensive way so that hopefully more people will be involved in the implementation going forward. Because that's the real challenge, is with limited resources as far as staffing, you really need some of the people that are passionate about it, that live here, to get more involved.
And it will include the TxDOT and the 281 project and what's going on as far as what's going to happen and when, approximately when, because that's where I get a lot of people that are concerned and interested in what's going on, and they need to have some answers. As long as they have some answers, they know what's going to happen.
the
They've
tech
seen
dot.
what's happened locally here recently, and it's helped them a lot. And they just wanted to know, okay, is there another step, and what is it?
Yeah.
And when is it?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can maybe answer that too
Yes.
in this meeting.
Yes.
Be great. Thank you.
Well, and so, we'd be adopting a transportation plan, that's all well and good, but TxDOT, we can plan all we want at the county level, but it's TxDOT's US highway. And, I think this is a very tricky area. I'm looking at your page 17, where they're gonna make the highway from the South County line to the Y look like the highway from the Y north, basically. Except that there's Blanco, and there's no way to make it bigger in Blanco. If there's two schools of thought on that. One is, well, that's fine, they can just slow down as they go through Blanco, and there's others that want them to go around Blanco. And I don't know what I think, but,
Right.
but I know that a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on it. So.
And I think that's going to be, especially as you look to the bypass, that's going to be something that you all can champion locally by getting someone in to facilitate, and find the plan that's going to work with.
I got to stop you because you said the bypass. There is no bypass
Plans,
presently.
plans for,
It keeps coming up.
it keeps coming up.
It does.
And I think that's why we need to have, at the public meeting, we want to make sure that we do a good job and have the text out there to communicate, not just what the issues are, but what's feasible. We're committed to continue to work with you all once you adopt the plan to try and find funding sources for some of these things. Last time when we did the plan in 2014, the Commissioners Court adopted it, and then everything just kind of died off. And so, we didn't come back and do much because we weren't asked to come back and do much. And we get that. I mean, there's other issues going on in the county sometimes that we get busy with. But now you have more growth and you have more opportunities, so it's a good time to pick out a few things once you adopt it and say, we're going to start with these two things, for example, and get those done, and then look at something else after that. And, get some momentum.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Betty, are you good? We're done? All right. Would you all consider moving Mr. Olay up while we're doing this? While we're altering the agenda? She has items 17, 18, 19.
It's fine with me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak once more. And item number 17 pertains to a project that was approved by the court back in March of 2019. And this project was originally priced out with an estimated cost of $233,655.87. Those were an estimated page and image counts. Well, we are at the end of that project, and we have actual counts now. And the good news is that we came in significantly under budget on this original project. The project came in under by $67,463.41. In the meantime, I have been working with the Honorable Laura Walla on a proposal to image preserve and provide optical character recognition to the historical Commissioner Court minutes. And these minutes go back to the original minutes, the original first meeting of Commissioners Court back in 1876. So the Texas State Library states that all Commissioner Court minutes are considered a permanent retention. And they further state that from a county sovereignty to 1950, that those records can never be eliminated or destroyed or shredded, and they must remain in their original source document, which in this case is paper. So within this proposal for the Commissioner Court minutes, and what I'm referring to now, I just want to make sure that I'm not jumping around to different agenda items, because these kind of bleed into one another. Okay, so this Commissioner Court minute project came in at $52,348.34, and it includes Commissioner Court minute books A through V, which comprise of the year spans of 1880 to 2012. So the Commissioner Court minute books from 1880 to 1959, because the book that has 1959 in it also has 1950. Those volumes have been selected for services of total restoration and preservation of these historical documents. And basically what that means is each sheet of paper will be mended and repaired. And the paper, back in the day, has acid in it. And then the ink gall that was written in handwriting also has acid in it. So your history is deteriorating and the acid is eating the paper. So that is what I mean by restoration and full preservation. Each sheet of paper will get mending, they'll be deacidified, each sheet of paper will be placed in a mylar sleeve, and each one of those sleeves will be placed in what we call a disaster-safe binder. These disaster-safe binders were invented after the Hurricane Katrina event. It wasn't the original event that damaged all the parish's historical records. It was the ensuing flood and FEMA that didn't allow the counties and the parishes to come in and rescue their paper. So the paper sat in that moldy and bad environment for such a long time. Hence, these disaster-safe binders were invented. They're an actual physical enclosure. It encloses the paper. It protects them from water and fire. The covers of the binders are actually used as the same material that's on the nose of the space shuttle when it comes back into comes back to Earth, and also Kevlar for bulletproof vests. So these are a sure way to keep your history best faith effort for the next 500 years until a better technology comes around, and then again they'll go ahead and preserve that. So the Commissioner Court Minute Project from the county sovereignty to 2012 is included in this amendment, which is the next line item, line item number 18. So since the original project, which was imaging and indexing all the oil and gas, deeds of trust, maps and plats, and providing a quick link solution for the deeds, since that project came in under budget, the county clerk entertained amending that original contract to add the Commissioner Court Minutes project to the original contract, which is item number 18 on the agenda. So before I move forward with any other topics, I want to give the court an opportunity to answer or to ask me any questions. And I also want to add that in the early 1900s, the clerk, whoever was in charge at the time, had a wonderful idea, and this happens not with every county, but you are very fortunate to have this happen in the early 1900s. And that is when the typewriter was not invented until the late 1800s. It wasn't made readily available until the early 1900s. But when the typewriter was made available, the county clerk at that time had somebody sit down, put in those big sheets of paper, and literally transcribe and type all of that handwritten data that were in the original Commissioner Court Minutes books that were physically handwritten. So what that means is we included in this proposal will run optical character recognition over all of those typed script minutes. So now the court or the constituents, if they're made public, now they can search by keywords, fireworks. And they will have every Commissioner Court meeting from sovereignty to 1912 that have the keywords fireworks or cathedral lay. They will be able to see whoever addressed the court at the time. So that is a benefit for your constituents and researchers who are researching these historical documents. So I wanted to make that comment with the Commissioner Court project before the court may have some questions for me. And we move on to item number 18.
Have you ever had a project with Blanco County that didn't come in under budget?
No, I've never had to come back to the court and ask for more money.
I asked that thinking about your proposal in 17 for 50-something thousand. Wondering if, like the current project, it has as much likelihood of coming in.
That actually came in on time and on budget. Those estimates were pretty straight on. That included deed record books that were a delta that I actually had page counts for, and transcribed probate minutes.
All right, so, and sorry, I don't want to interrupt if you have questions, but to boil it down is we budgeted a certain amount. They have come in under budget, and while we were thinking, I think at the time, that we would have to wait a year to budget for to do the Commissioner's Court minutes, we are able to financially do them under the existing contract ahead of time because of the good performance provided so far. That's it in a nutshell.
That's basically it, Your Honor. Yes, and even adding the Commissioner Court minutes to the original project, we are still under budget by $15,115.
Questions, comments?
Well, it looks like it's a good time to add on the rest of it and add it to the contract.
So, and the contracts are, I think they're presently in our attorney's office, I think?
Yes. I did visit with Kim before I came to court today. She said she had one question about the GSA contract, and I was able to address that.
And so if the commissioners choose to authorize entering into the contract and the amendment, it will be subject to county attorney approval.
I understand, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do we want to deal with these and then talk about 19, or do you want to talk about 19 or item 19?
Sure.
Or not, or do we want to? They're actually standalone, so do we want to talk about the Commissioner Court minutes and whether or not to do it?
you would move on them individually?
Well, I would
It's
go ahead-
17 and 18 are related, so it doesn't matter.
I'd go ahead and make a motion to authorize the county judge to enter into a contract with CoFile Technologies for the preservation and archive digitalization of 27 volumes of Commissioner Court minutes, pending the approval of the county attorney.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Eaker, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So do you want to dovetail on to 18 or and
Just,
authorize the amendment of that contract?
yes, we can do that as well.
Okay. So your motion is?
Go ahead and authorize the county judge to sign the amendment to the current CoFile Technologies contract, adding the fees and preservation of archival digitalization of the Commissioner's Court minutes, which was currently funded by the clerk's office utilizing the GSA procurement schedule.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Eager, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can talk about Vanguard.
Yes, Your Honor, so item number 19.
Yeah, I think Dan will.
So this item is a software solution for the county clerk's office. And as you may know or remember from previous presentations to the Commissioner's Court, CoFile, we specifically focus on county clerk solution for their offices, as well as the district clerks. And we have some interest in other departments, such as the sheriff department, that may have historical records. But this solution here is our own cloud-based software solution for county clerks' offices that allows public access and e-commerce capabilities for land, vitals, and Commissioner Court minutes. Now, first of all, before we dive into that, I do want to make a couple of comments about the county clerk's office here. For a county of this size of Blanco, I am astonished at how much modernization the county clerk's office has done. It is very uncommon to hit a county office of this size and see that all the deed records from sovereignty to present are all imaged and indexed. Very unusual. Also, the last project that we just approved to do an amendment with also included all the deeds of trust and oil and gas to be imaged and indexed back to sovereignty. All of the maps and plats pertaining to the county clerk's office, all the recordings for maps and plats, imaged and indexed back to sovereignty. Highly, highly unusual, and I want to just let the county clerk know that she's done a fantastic job, as well as all the vitals for birth, death, and marriage. So with that comment, I'll move on to the Vanguard, which I think will help build onto these comments. So the Vanguard system is a cloud-based system. It's in the cloud. It's in the Microsoft Cloud under Azure. Azure is a cloud-based solution that has not been hacked. So that is a very stable platform. On page 1 of 11 on our proposal, it lists several counties that have already made the decision and migrated to the Vanguard product. Some of your sister counties here, Bexar County, Kendall County will go live in April. Hidalgo County, Denton, Bexar, Jim Wells, Grayson, Ward, Starr, Milam, Goliad, Refugio, Midland, Walker, the Permian Basin, where all of the land records are consistently accessed. Those Ward and Midland counties and Reeves counties all have the Vanguard solution. And the key reason for that is the ease of researchers to find documents and the capability to do your research and purchase documents from anywhere in the world, eliminating courthouse visits. Reeves County, which is in Pecos, Texas, is one of my clients. And I could count anywhere between 65 to 80 landmen and women in her office at any one given time. It was amazing. I went out and visited with her last week. There was probably 20 researchers. You're always going to have those researchers that want the paper. But with this Vanguard solution and the fact that the clerk has imaged and indexed all of her land records from present back to sovereignty, all of her maps and plats, all of her vitals, birth, death, marriage, and now Commissioner Court minutes, all of these documents, with the exception of vitals because they are private, all of these documents will be made available to the public to research and purchase online. In this proposal are some of the features of the Vanguard system. If you can go to Amazon and do a Google search and find the product you want to buy and have shipped to your house, you can use this system. All the land records, all the records that will live in the system will automatically be OCR. So now, if I want to find my deed record, I don't know my legal short address. What I know is my physical address. I can go into the Vanguard system. I can search for 1765 Flaming Oak, and every document with that physical address in it will be presented to me. I no longer need to know the grantor, grantee, the short physical or legal address. I can search any keywords within the documents. On page 9, I believe, is our pricing. What we have included here is we have included an option for hardware and software, and then software only. There was a point during the development of this proposal that the county felt that the county clerk's office, that her hardware and equipment would be adequate for this solution. And it's been determined that, yeah, it'll pass, but it passes at the very minimum requirement. So I would like for the court to consider the full hardware and software solution that's going to benefit you in a major way, and especially the clerk's office in a major way. If there's an issue with any piece of hardware that we're providing, that's on us. She has one throat to choke. She comes to us. Whereas if there was an issue with the hardware, and now we got to get your IT folks involved, and she's got clients at the desk who want to file deed records or do a marriage application. Now she's managing two vendors, us and her internal IT. On page, 8 it is, I apologize, page 8 lists the items down the first column that are included in this proposal. And then under the quantity, the next two columns is the hardware option, the pieces of hardware that we will supply with this solution. And then the next column is software only. These are the hardware pieces that we'll provide if we're only going to do software only. I wanted to point that out. In the clerk's office, we are supplying 4 staff workstations and 2 public workstations. 4 printers, 3 printers for the staff and the clerk, and 1 Zebra barcode printer. That is to file maps and plats that are oversized. You can't get those through the system, so you've got to print the filing information on a barcode. There's some accessories, surge protection. There's 3 cash drawers. Those cash drawers are used to cash out at the end of the day and are very important for the auditor's reports and the treasurer's reports back to the state. And then again, we have some software in here and an integration to TextEver, which is the Vitals part. She will get Vitals electronically from the state. Another neat little feature about VanCard, when a birth or a death record is received electronically, since the forms are standard, the system will read the child's name or the parent's name. It knows where those areas are and will automatically index those records. The only thing the clerk's office has to do is verify that the information the system read is correct. When we move on to page 9, we have the different pricing for the first solution, which is software and hardware. And the monthly cost turnkey is $1,946.25 per month. I want to reiterate, if you read through this proposal, included with our monthly cost is unlimited support. We will come in at go live and we will stay here for an entire week after we go live with the system. If the clerk's office hires a new employee and needs additional training, she simply can call us and we will schedule a time to come out and train her employee at no additional cost. We are not in the business to nickel and dime our clients to death. We are in the business to earn your business every month. So this cost will be stagnant, with the exception of the next line, with the second to the next line item I'm going to share with you. So the $1,946.25, that's a monthly cost, includes unlimited support and training. The solution for software only, and we've already discussed that, it does reduce the monthly cost, and it does drop it down to $1,536 per month. The county would be responsible for the hardware. The third bullet item, internet hosting services. This is where the clerk's invoice will fluctuate in a positive direction. So these documents will be made available online for purchase. And the state of Texas says that the clerk's office can charge $1 per page per copy. So what this bullet item says is the clerk's office will retain 100% of her copy revenue. If a researcher comes in and buys a 10-page document, she will get $10 for that transaction. Co-file, we charge a $2 per document, not per transaction, per document, convenience fee. We handle all the credit card transactions, we integrate with all the banking industries, we do all of that. That's what that $2 per document is about. So if I come in and I buy one document that's 10 pages, I don't come in, I go online, I purchase one document, it's 10 pages. Me as a constituent, I will pay $12. The clerk will make her $10 revenue, and co-file, for $2 we handle that document. At the end of the month, all of her copy revenue can be applied in one of two ways. Number one, it could be applied as a credit to the clerk's office for funds that she could use with co-file for future projects. Number two, those funds that she collects every month can be applied as a credit to her next monthly invoice. So for example, if you sell $500 worth of copy revenue in January, your invoice in February will be $500 less than the $1,946.25. So I wanted to make that clear for the court. There are some optional features that we can perform for the county. If the clerk would like for us to index all of her land records on a daily basis and turn them around, The cost to do that is $3.07 per document. Right now, the clerk's office is doing their own indexing. I don't see her moving towards this. Another option here is from day forward, NetData, your current vendor does not have this capability. But day forward, if the clerk would like for us to make microfilm of all of the filings day forward as another fail-safe disaster recovery method, we can create microfilm on a daily basis for 6 cents per image. It hasn't been used in the past, but it is available for the county. The terms and conditions are on page 9. There's a lot of talk there about the go-live date, and the go-live date is not decided until after the county's commissioner court approves the project. At that time, when this project is approved by the court, we will take a look at our backlog and take a look at all of the other counties that are queued up, your existing vendor, and how difficult it's going to be to get the data extract out of them, and then we will give you a good and solid go-live date. These go-live dates typically run between 5 to 8 months out after approval. We don't want to be in a relationship where it doesn't work out, and so if you want to divorce us, you can terminate this agreement with a 30-day written notice, and we will provide you all of the metadata and images in the system in an industry standard format and deliver them to your new vendor. So again, our goal is to earn your business every month. So with that said, I want to just open it up for the court to ask me any questions that you may have.
If they approve it today, the project couldn't be complete based on your estimates until sometime early next fall. 8 months.
August, September, October.
So the commissioners would have an opportunity to budget for paying for it in next year's budget.
Absolutely, Your Honor. And the other item is we always invoice in arrears. So we do not invoice for January until February. And if the go-live date for the clerk's office is in the middle of the month, let's say it's August 15th, then in reality you get that half a month for free because we don't invoice half months. So literally the first invoice, if you went live in September, would be October.
And just for clarification, back when we were imaging plats and maps and such and having this discussion, the example that you gave that I latched onto was a person could be sitting on the beach in Jamaica and research Blanco County records. But this is the linchpin on how to do that.
This is correct, Your Honor. And I like the fact that you latched onto the maps and plats. Your current vendor, NetData, cannot support those type of images. They are oversized. So this system, this Vanguard system, supports every type of land record that the clerk's office has. So I could download a map that is 36 by 24. I can download that from the beach, pay for it, download it, and have it in my digital archive on my hard drive on my laptop or my iPad.
Why do we need 4 staff workstations?
Well, we just have that one at the front counter that we use as well.
And for the commissioner's interest, I think the current workstations in the clerk's office are in the 3 to 4 year range of age, and they're already starting, according to our IT person, starting to get some age on them. If we went, it's certainly up to you, but if we went with the hardware side, and I was the one that was telling her I didn't think we need that, and I've changed my mind on that. But if we go with the hardware option as well, it advances us to touch screens and things like that, and larger screens.
If we was to go with the hardware section as well, the maintenance of those, that would be, if for some reason a tower went out or a screen went out, a monitor, that's replaced under our contract. And we don't-
That's correct, Commissioner. That replacement and that support is all included in that monthly payment.
How is it done? Does a guy come in and replace it, or do they ship it to us and we install it?
Well, you're in a very fortunate position because we have two staff members in San Antonio. So our support team is out of Dallas, San Antonio, and down in Edinburgh in the Valley. So chances, no, we would come and physically replace it. If you buy the hardware from us, we will physically come out here and replace it. And our trip too is from San Antonio. We're not coming in from Dallas or Houston.
Okay.
The one thing you said though about our IT our IT vendor wouldn't have to be involved, but these workstations will also handle email.
The courts too. So there will be some involvement with your IT folks to port over applications onto these workstations that the clerk uses on a daily basis, which would be the courts, and then your email, and any other application that you have. So we would work with IT to get them up and running, but then the ongoing support, we shouldn't have to have your IT folks involved.
Well, I'm not 100% sure of that because the securities of the system, of the county system, would include those units.
Yes, sir.
And he's going to be concerned about those just like he is any other unit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And we use the Active Directory. You would use Active Directory here, so Active Directory would be on the system. He'd be able, or she would be able to monitor the systems and its access. One of the things too that came up in the demo too was Walker County was held for ransom because it was a local-based system where the servers are all connected to all the computers. Somebody let in a virus through their email, opened it up, it went in and held for ransom the county's information on the server. Well, since Vanguard is in the cloud and not associated with a local server, the county clerk's office was the only office up and running while they were trying to figure out if they were to pay the ransom or not. I don't recall what the outcome of that was.
It includes 2 public workstations?
Yes, sir.
And what about the plotter? Does it have a plotter with it?
The clerk's office currently has a printer, a wide format printer.
Okay.
We did not include a wide format printer, scanner, copier.
But it interfaces with that?
It would, yes, it will interface with that. If a researcher wants to come in and buy a physical copy, she will have the capability to do that.
I got you.
How many years should this hardware be good for until it's time to update again?
Sure. This contract, the pricing is based around a 5-year contract. And let's say after the end of 5 years, you want to continue on, as long as you're paying that monthly cost, we're in charge of all your hardware and software.
There's not a one-time upgrade, hardware upgrade?
No. And that's the other nice thing about this software, since it's in a server farm, and new enhancements come into the system, we create these new enhancements across the server farm. We don't have to come out here and download software on their computers and make this difficult. We just put out a maintenance. Starting tomorrow, this new feature will be available, and we run it across all the server farms.
So every piece of new information that comes in, a deed, a death, a marriage, it's instantly, it's in the system.
It is in the system, and Commissioner, not only is it in the system, but it is secured and locked down in a safe place, 6 different locations. So if one site goes down, the other site falls over.
So you'll never generate years of backlog. It'll be kept up instantly.
Yes, sir.
which obviates the need for the microphone because there's 6 different places we can.
Yes, there are some counties that will not give up their film, so we put that in there.
we're talking about documents and information that require permanent storage, right?
Pretty much everyone they're talking about requires permanent.
Permanent only. I
Yes.
mean, the other stuff is not, right?
What other
Right,
stuff?
Is there anything
financials
that has
and
lifespan? No,
contracts, this is not the platform for those types of documents that have a retention schedule.
I got you.
So, and the actual contract also is under review and legal, I think.
Yes, sir.
So it would be a subject to motion if you're interested.
Yes, and Your Honor, too, we are using the GSA contract for this procurement, which you're more than aware of.
Anyone have a thought?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the county judge to enter into a contract with CoFile Technologies, Inc. for the Vanguard Records Management and Imaging System pending attorney approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg seconds. Discussion.
This will be, it won't actually, the payments won't start till our next budget cycle. That's your thoughts.
Yeah, and it is, and it was a little vague, but my experience with working with CoFile is kind of like with ES&S. We can adjust it so that we're sure it coincides with
Yes.
October 1st.
Yeah, if we come back and say we can do a go live in July, and you're like, whoa, that's too soon, I want my first invoice in October, we'll push it back. Also, just to remind the court, you still have around the $15,000 that were still in the budget on the original project that we approved last year, so I just want to remind the court about that too.
And your motion was which way, software or software hardware?
Well, I would like to see do the software hardware.
Okay. Just making sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
More discussion. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to thank the court for your support of CoFile, and thank you so much for your business.
Well, thank you for coming in on time under budget.
Thank you. I was quite surprised to see the final number.
So we left an item on page one, item number 10, the records management policy.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the record management policy and declaration of compliance by the elected officials.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Weir, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Takes us to item 11. And we are in line to purchase another DS200. Those are the vote tally machines for the electronic voting.
And this money has been budgeted.
I'm unsure because this was done prior to taking elections back. Yes,
Ms. Strickland says it is.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the approval and the specs and the purchase of the DS200 Express voting machine as outlined in the capital equipment portions of the 1920 budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg, discussion.
Can I make a correction to that?
Yeah.
It's not the express voting machine.
It's the DS200.
Right, so the express voting machine is to be taken off.
Right. The express voting are the little windows at the voting
That you mark
booths
your
that
choice
you
on.
mark your choices.
The DS200 is what counts those ballots.
Right. And this will make how many with this one?
7, I believe.
And that will give you the ability to have them in the various precincts more, right?
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner in precinct 2, I'm sorry he had to leave. He had another issue, but He's asking for permission to advertise for an employee in precinct 2.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing to advertise for an employee in precinct 2 Road and Bridge Department.
You killed it.
Well, duh. Well, it's either that or get stung, so.
I'm sorry. Would you start over?
Yes. I would like to make a motion authorizing to advertise for an employee in precinct 2 Road and Bridge Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next item involves the road project down on Trainer East, Commissioner Weir.
All right, I'm looking to get approval to, I've gotten a signature from the family to start the process of moving the road over. I've got, now what I need to do is get approval to have it surveyed so that we actually have, we know what we're talking about, a particular piece of land for an easement. So I'm asking for that approval, and that would take us from that point on where we could take that description and that survey and then draft a document based off of that to get the authorized with the family for us to start the project.
So is that your motion?
My motion is, let's see,
Authorize me to sign the survey agreement?
that is correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. The annual ESD number 1 financial reports are in your packet, I think.
Yes.
And subject to your accepting and acknowledging them.
I'll make a motion to accept the annual report from the Blanco County ESD number 1.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Weir, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And we're taking back up again this month the reappointment of AJ Galrano, Kurt McElhaney, and Brant Rayburn to serve on the North Blanco County ESD Board for two more years.
I will make a motion to reappoint AJ Gallardo, Kurt McElhaney, and Brant Rayburn to serve on the North Blanco County ESD number 1 board for a 2-year term beginning January was the 14th, 2020, through December 31st, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg, discussion.
I do want to, I've talked to y'all, I've talked to the fire departments and the EMS, and I want to make sure that this is a working relationship between all parties involved and that nobody's overstepping any boundaries and making everything work to the best for our citizens.
And I see Mr. Rayburn, I see all of you, I think, almost. Who are we missing? Mr. Gallarado? Okay. Mr. McElhaney, Mr. Rayburn, care to say anything, or are you just ready to be appointed? Okay. All right.
I got one comment.
Please, come on.
About the communication between Johnson State Fire Department.
Would you mind coming up, because I just don't think the recorder will pick you up back there. And you are David O'Bannon, Chairman of the ESD number 1.
Yes. And the issues we had is lack of communication here. And I brought this up in the last meeting when you guys were there. Our thing is that, and I've reached out to the board already, to the new president, to meet with them before our next meeting. Haven't heard anything. And this has been the issue and one of the problems we've had in the past is lack of communication on their part and what's going on. Because we have no idea what's happening with these people other than what we read in the newspaper. And what I read in the newspaper is not completely accurate as to how things happen. This whole board has tried our best to work with them and to get a working relationship, but we've run into obstacles in every part of the way. I just want to make that clear to everybody at this board. We reach out to them on everything, try to work with them on everything, but we get no response.
So, before you leave, so here on the record, you're willing to commit right to the Commissioner's Court, that you're still giving it the good old college try to get the communication you want and to make the relationship work.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what our responsibility is for this community, is to make sure that these organizations are in compliance with what the laws and regulations set by the state. That's part of our job, and the other part is to be able to get public funding to finance these organizations. And the issues we've had is when we have questions, they don't have answers. And we try to, get them to rationalize, what's going on and what's happening here. And if you take a look at it, in the last year, they've gone through 3 presidents. They've had this, they're on the 3rd one now. So the organization and the financing end of it, when we have financial questions about how they spend their money, and that is part of our responsibility, they don't have answers. Okay, and so we will continue to reach out to them to try to work with them. We're willing to work with them. They need to be willing to work with us.
I don't have a copy, but I've seen the kind of the working draft of the new contract between the ESD and the fire departments, I guess, that's going around. And it addresses some of the things you've talked about, and I get that. There was a couple of phrases in there that seemed to say that the ESD would control the hierarchy at the fire department. That's not really what you all want, is it?
We do not do that. We don't tell them how to run their business.
So you wouldn't need that in a contract either?
Well, the contract itself was written by Ken Campbell, which he is really involved in the ESD's formation and the whole bit, and he has written a lot of the regulations that the state has presented out to how the ESDs operate. That is what he is, and he is our attorney dealing with the thing.
His name is?
Ken Campbell.
Campbell.
Okay?
Now, Mr. Gallerano is an attorney, right?
He is a corporate attorney, yes.
He's not the ESD's attorney?
He is not. Okay. I mean, the reason why that I had recommended him to the board is because he is an attorney, so that we can get things like agreements, the thing in handling legal papers and stuff that we have as far as, buying the land and the surveys and what we're doing as far as with the EMS and with the Round Mountain and what we're doing, and even with the legal thing with the new building we did for Johnson City over here, is to handle things like that so we can do it and it saves us money. That's what we're after, to save and make sure that how these entities spend their money, that's what our job is to look at that, and that's what we're trying to do. And our main responsibility is to make sure that these entities have to be contracted by the ESD. They receive public money. In order for them to provide that service to the county, they have to have a contract with the ESD to provide that service. Our responsibility is to make sure that they spend that money, and we have right to dictate how they spend taxpayer money. What they raise on their own, we don't. Okay? But the other responsibility is to make sure that they all have the training that they're supposed to have, that they're in compliance with the laws and regulations of the state. We ask questions about that, we don't get answers. And that's been our big problem. But the answer to your question is yes, we will.
What makes you? Do you have anything encouraging to tell us that you're gonna meet and move forward, or?
Well, we have a new president to work with. Okay. I've talked to him a couple of times about some things. I've asked him for a meeting, and I'm hoping that we can have a get together so that the whole board and the fire department and the ESD board are moving forward in a positive direction and on the same page. And that's been a lot of our issues about what's going on here is, getting them to cooperate with us.
Well, but is that meeting going to happen?
I don't know. It's up to them. I mean, I have asked for it on 2 different occasions, and I have not gotten a response. The new president, I've asked him for his email address and contact about that, and I told him I would like to, for myself and another member of the board, to sit down with them and have a discussion about moving forward and what we want to do, and so that they will understand what we expect from them and what we're looking for to do.
Well, I hope y'all do meet, because you can round robin the contract back and forth, different drafts forever, but, you know, sometimes the face-to-face, you can get things ironed out a lot faster.
Well, I mean, that's what we've been trying to do for months. I mean, the president prior to this, I asked for a meeting with him back in June, and it never happened. And I asked him more than once for this meeting, and it never happened. So, we're here.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
thoughts? All right, well, before we vote, I just do want to say one thing, because this has been in the paper, and there's lots of controversy, and I guess everybody has an opinion, but I just want to say to K.O.D.N., Mr. Rayburn, Mr. McElhaney, and Mr. O'Bannon, and Mr. Gallarano, who were here, I want to thank you. We up here get paid to do this job. It's not a lot of money, but we get paid something. You all are doing it as true volunteers, and you put yourself in the middle of harm's way, if you will, at least public perception-wise. And it's hard to find good qualified people to step up to do things like ESD board personnel. So I want to just thank you for what you're doing, encourage you to try hard so that we can put all these issues to bed and the emergency services of Blanco County can run smoothly. Although I'm not saying they don't, because they actually do run smoothly.
Can I make one comment?
Sure, come on up, sir.
Just one thing, we've talked about, some of the issues we've had, there's been a lot of that, but just as a good thing.
Just so you know, just for the microphone, you are Kirk McElhaney.
Kirk McElhaney.
Yes, sir.
Just as a good thing, and this fits into your district, we're starting the Round Mountain Fire Station, and that's a good thing. I want that to kind of come out. I don't want to end on a bad note here. I'd like to end on a good note. That project's going well. It's going to be a really nice addition, and we're hoping that we can recruit some new firefighters in your district, in my district. So, I want to end on a good note, not a bad note.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of the motion for the reappointments? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The Texas Association of Counties has put together another cybersecurity training course that is required apparently by law. And even though we've undergone one recently, we get to do it again. And this item is asking you to authorize me to enroll the county employees in tax, no cost, annual state mandated cybersecurity training.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the county judge to enroll county employees to TAC's no-cost annual state-mandated cybersecurity training course as required by Texas Government Code 2054.5191.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Granberg, discussion. I guess I would have to just say that Connie has received a number of grumblings because the employees have just gone through one series of it, but now a new series has come along, and it's required that we do it. And frankly, with the headlines nowadays and counties and municipalities getting attacked, it's probably a good thing, even though it's time consuming.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The burn ban is item 21. Anyone have an interest in burn ban? Pass on it. Takes us to item 22.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?